Nightly Musers, followers of the pod, faithful few and hopeful many. This is Anchor by Spotify. If you haven't heard about it, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's the very platform that allows me to give you what I give you on the nightly. So let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And it gives you the ability to distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so much more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally FREE free. So here's where you come in. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That is ANCHOR.fm to get started. Thank you very much. Peace. Welcome to the Nightly Muse on the road edition. Today's episode is always brought to you by me and made possible musically by the wonderful talents of Low Fly Productions. Shout out Low Fly. I absolutely love saying that. It's amazing. In my other podcast, Teve and I's, technically I guess it would be my other podcast with Teve. We have another guy who has allowed us to use their music to to put on the pod, and we call him Treat. So we always go shout out Treat, and I'll be like Treat. It's a fun time. I feel like my main spiritual gift is hype man, and this episode is gonna have to be paused because the Summer Olympics is happening. See, y'all just gonna have the Summer Olympics without me? Go ahead, I'm talking to you. See, y'all just gonna have the Olympics without me? That's how it is? Huh? Multiple years of service? This is live on the podcast, by the way. And we're back on the road again. Shout out Team Argentina. I don't know why I said we. They won the annual Summer Staff Olympics. Phenomenal stuff. To be honest, I don't even remember what we were talking about. I think I was telling you about Treat and how I enjoy my spiritual gift. Yes. So my spiritual gift is gassing people up. And while that may sound a little ridiculous, it is true that my spiritual gift is cheering people on. It's a lot of fun. I have a lot of talented friends, and one of my favorite things to do is to tell the world about my talented friends. That's not what this episode is about. But this episode is about counseling. I don't know why I said it like that. Counseling. This episode is about counseling. So I've been in counseling for, I think, 6 months. I want to say I started going in February. And my counselor, Brett, great guy. Very vital to my life right now. And one of the things I wanted to say
Life in Between, shout out, go check it out. We just finished our first season recently, Teva and I. What a pair. Really, the dynamic duo. Only second best to Kobe and Shaq. I was about to say Shobi and Kak. That would have been funny. But anyway, we talk about mental health in our podcast because we're about that. And I'm about that. And my personal journey with counseling has been, it's been good. I mean, I'm not here to say that counseling is for everyone. But I have never been in a space that felt safer for me to process pain that I have been through in my life. That's given me the tools to process said pain and just life in general, to celebrate the wins and encourage in the losses and give good counsel. It was actually really important for me to find an African American counselor and a Christian one. Neither were like truly end all be all, but both were of supreme import. And Brett, if you couldn't tell by his name, though I do know a black Brent, Brett is white, and he was the first person that I guess I had a consultation with. I don't know how to actually phrase it, but he was such a good listener that I just kind of knew that it was going to be him. And it was amazing. He listens so well, and does a great job of like, one, he's himself. Like, he doesn't try to like be somebody else because he's with a black person or any, like, he's just a great listener. He makes me feel seen. He very much makes me feel heard, and is just a great support. My life has not gotten easier despite being in counseling, and sometimes I think that can be a misconception, that counseling is going to solve your problems. Being new into it, I, having struggled with pornography for a very long time, wasn't actually going in there for that reason. Just some relational things that were going on in my life that were really hard, and I was looking for a space to be able to deal with that well. And some of that, you know, my counselor has a hunch that, you know, my struggle and those issues relationally probably have some connections, and I don't doubt that either. But the point is, with this episode, and I thought it was going to be longer, but maybe this is just going to be a shorty, a shorty, you know what I'm saying? A little shoddy. Life didn't get easier. Life did not get easier to manage. I guess it got easier to manage. Life itself did not get easier, but it did get easier to manage because I was given the tools to process the complexities and the hardships of a life that continued to get harder, more difficult, more painful. There was good, but there was a lot of pain. And counseling has given me an outlet. A lot of my struggle with church sometimes is that relationally, it's like we're family because we're children of God, and so we're brothers and sisters in Christ and all that fun stuff that's theologically true. But I don't know everybody like that. And just because we all serve Jesus doesn't mean that I got to tell you my deepest, darkest secrets, you know? Like, there's a relational element to life that is like, hey, vulnerability begets vulnerability, but also you got to earn vulnerability. You know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes in Christian spaces, we assume a level of vulnerability that isn't merited or isn't always healthy, at least for me. Honesty obviously is always good, but sometimes we're just a little too close, and just because we're like laboring together, yes, like that is a very intimate thing, but that's not always like, you know, it's just not, it's not for, you know, there are boundaries in work and there's boundaries in other things, and sometimes I think because it's church and because I work in church, it feels like there just aren't very great boundaries personally sometimes. And so to have that outlet where, I mean, he's literally contractually obligated to keep his mouth shut about my life unless we're talking about it, or unless I pose a direct threat to somebody. Like, he is quite literally the safest person in my life that I can trust. And because there is a contractual cone of silence, cone of confidentiality, I can be my most authentic self with him as I learn how to get more comfortable around him. And so, shout out Brett, shout out counseling, shout out mental health and taking care of your chickens and your mentals. Shout out Marshawn Lynch for one of the greatest quotes of all time. And shout out y'all for listening to this. I hope that this is meaningful to whoever stumbles upon it. I think counseling is great. I think taking care of yourself is great and important. And mental health needs to be addressed more and more and more. Ended up being a little long. Not long. This is definitely shorter than normal. But, you know, I ended up talking a little longer than I thought. So it's not 8 minutes, but happy 12. Peace!